Heaven to Hell, Satan's Journey. Today, Part 10. Every trader creating idols for worship is controlled and prospered by Satan. Acts chapter 19, verse 24 to 26. It says, "For a certain man named Demetrius, a silversmith, who made silver shrines of Diana, brought no small profit to the craftsmen. He called them together with the workers of similar occupation and said, 'Men, you know that we have our prosperity by this trade. We have our prosperity by this trade,' he says. There are places in the world, so-called religious pilgrimage places, generating millions of dollars and rupees by installing an idol, and people start thronging to such places. As soon as Satan starts showing signs and wonders, it has virtually become difficult for people to identify which spirit is working in such places, as miraculous signs are seen. A very disheartening issue this has become. Even a few of the so-called worshippers who worship Jesus visit such pilgrimage places only because they see a miracle happening in that place. An icon of Jesus bleeding has made many to buy this type of an icon, believing that it is a miracle from God. And men and companies who make these icons and statues are making no small profit, as was the case in the time of the early church, when the idol of Diana brought big profit for the idol makers and manufacturers. Unless one accepts Jesus Christ as their personal Savior, it is difficult for them to identify the deception. Next, though Satan is thrown down, he has access to God's conference meetings sometimes. Job chapter 1, verse 6 to 7, it says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, 'From where do you come?' So Satan answered the Lord and said, 'From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking back and forth on it.'" I find these particular two verses quite interesting. If one dramatizes this scene of God questioning Satan, and the Lord said to Satan, "Where do you come from?" A plain, simple, concern-showing question God asks Satan when he presents himself before God, with much embarrassment and shame, I believe, for one who was company in the glorious presence of God, now has to come with the general company of the sons of God. Verse 6 says, "Satan also came among them." Why would God entertain Satan after throwing him down from heaven? What made God to allow Satan to have access to him? Why would God, even after knowing that Satan had rebelled against him, still feel like having a dialogue with him? So many questions can crop up from this one verse. And so we can have the answers from the Bible itself. How? God is merciful God. Satan is a created being, God's very own creation, a masterpiece, a perfect creation of God's handiwork. Would anybody like to destroy his own great handwork? I don't think so. But here, God is showing concern, giving another chance to Satan, while keeping his own plan in mind for other creation also. Genesis chapter 8, verse 21. "And the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. Then the Lord said in his heart, 'I will never again curse the ground for man's sake. although the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Nor will I again destroy every living thing as I have done. Next, Satan operates under God's permission. Job chapter 2, verse 6. And the Lord said to Satan, Behold, he is in your hand, but spare his life. Satan has limited authority, as he is given the same by God himself, at times for a certain venture. This authority he uses in such a way that the soul in question would really think that Satan is all-powerful and that he is capable of destroying mankind with much suffering and fear. Most people, some believers in Jesus Christ also at times, are so much taken and carried off by this Satan's way of exercising the authority that they totally forget that there is a much greater authority that they have in Jesus Christ, who is their personal Savior. Suffering and negative situations make people to think that it is finished for them. Satan made life so painful for Job that he got boils on the sole of his feet to the crown of his head. What would be the condition of such a man? What would such a man think about God at that time? Would a person have patience and endure the pain or curse God for the day, as Job's wife advises him to do so when she sees Job suffering? Would a person still like to continue with God in such a situation? That is what Satan does to people, brings them very near to the grave. One note we must make here: if God has cast Satan down to the earth, that means God knows to what extent Satan will go and operate in the lives of people. God, while taking this step, has already calculated the movements of Satan, and hence it is with the permission of God that Satan is here on the earth. And so it is also obvious that he will do everything within the limits that God allows him to do here on the earth. John 10:10 calls him the one who comes to destroy. If Satan was not working under God's permission, he would have destroyed the entire humanity by now. If Satan was not operating under God's permission, the Antichrist would have also been in the scene, or rather on the scene by now. But he who constrains has not allowed it to happen, as mentioned in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 6 to 8. Speaks of an entity that holds back the revealing of the Antichrist. The thing that restrains the revealing of the Antichrist is God. It is with the permission of God that the Antichrist will appear on the scene, and Satan will work through him, a perfect control of the Creator on entire creation. 2 Thessalonians 2, 6 to 8. And now, it says, you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. My next commentary would be followed by part 11. Satan occupies men's and women's bodies and leads them to sin. To be continued.